Countries like India contributed 1.5 million men for the war, which was the greatest from the British Empire. Other countries in the British Empire like Canada, South Africa, and Australia contributed 1.3 million men. There was a lot of racial diversity because the French and British employed non-whites to fight against Germany.
There were many different jobs, but they depended on what the countries like the French and British thought best fit. Africans were thought to be more natural warriors, so they were likely to be placed in the fighting. Unlike the Chinese, they were hired by the French and British to clear the battlefields. England and France divided their recruits to warlike or non-warlike men.
Within a week of the war, Germany already had 3.8 million men. They used equipment such as machine guns and trench warfare that killed thousands of people.
USA declared war on April 6, 1917. They contributed raw materials, money, and troops to the war. They mobilized over 4 million men. Russia, Britain, and France were the Triple Entente. Italy joined them on May 23, 1915. After that, the USA joined, with their allies Liberia and Greece. Russia entered World War I with an army which was massive but badly armed. Russia suffered quick body blows from Germany and went on to one disaster after another. 1,650,000 men were killed, 3,850,000 were wounded, and 2,410,000 were prisoners before the 1917 revolution, which ousted the Tsar and ended Russia's part in the war. The French troops from Indochina disembarked at Camp Saint Raphael. Over the course of the war, nearly 100,000 Indochinese were deployed in Europe, most as laborers, but several thousand also served in combat battalions.
Without choosing, the Canadians entered the war as Britain's allies to fight against Germany. The war enabled them to become more independent. During their time in war, 67,000 Canadian troops were killed and 250,000 were wounded. In total, there were about 600,000 Canadians involved in the war in some way, being nurses, soldiers, or something else. The First World War was the bloodiest conflict in Canadian history. This veteran describes the life of a colonial soldier in his own experiences.
I went along this road and the shell came along, and my goodness, it got louder and louder and louder, and I thought, my God, it's got my name on it.
One of the great big shells blew all the earth and the dirt straight on top of us. I couldn't move. I was terribly quickly breathing, gasping as it were, trying to get air in, of course. And it was only the fact that I'd got my steel hat on that saved my life.
The Indian troops had an overall negative feeling towards the war. A majority of the Indian colonial troops fought against the Ottoman Empire. But in 1914, however, 150,000 Indian soldiers were deployed in Europe for war. They fought against Germany, and this resulted in 70,000 deaths of Indian lives between 1914 and 1918. Those who stayed in India guarded the northwest frontier. The end.